The shots rang out. It was just bullets everywhere. It was a war zone. My husband said, no, please, my friend, just take what you want. You can take anything, just leave us alone. My little girl put up her hand and she said, but I've got a piggy bank. You can take my money. My husband said to them, please. And the one guy said, oh, just kill him, brother. And they shot him between the eyes in front of us. Our little boy was born 5 days after Daddy's funeral.
They came with an iron, you know, normal clothing iron. They burned me on my leg, telling him that they're going to hurt me if he doesn't open the safe. And he tried again, and then they burned him on his back. I'm out of hospital, but he's still in ICU.
I was shot 2 times here, and once here in the neck, and it went outside my head. Yeah. You just feel that burning feeling, and it's a hell of an impact. This stuff is happening every day in France.
Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. What we're going to be talking about today is something that is happening in South Africa. And this was brought to my attention. I do not know if this community member lives in South Africa, but I'm counting on the fact that they do. This is horrifying in ways that, this is what nightmares are made out of. This is what's happening to farmers in South Africa. Okay. And, it makes one think, could this happen here? I don't know. But there's horrific killings of farmers where victims are being assaulted, tortured, strung up on poles. Okay. And it has sparked outrage in South Africa. In one of the cases, a female farm manager was assaulted in a way that no female should ever be assaulted, if you catch my drift, and she was strangled by 2 gunmen at her farm. In a separate brutal attack on a farm manager 290 kilometers away, a man was tied to a pole and tortured before being repeatedly stabbed and strangled. Now, there's a farm manager. Her name is Chantel Kershaw. She's 44 years old at the time, that this happened. She was ambushed by 2 men, and as she helped load a lawnmower onto a truck. Then they held her down, strangled her, in her garage of her farm at Delmas, Delmas, east of Johannesburg, and left her lying on the ground before pistol whipping her mother. The distraught mother, Greta Spears, who was 65 at the time, was restrained at the farm as the farm was looted, and a maid was locked in a bathroom before they fled the scene in the family's white Chevy station wagon. Now, local neighborhood watch farmers were forced the stolen vehicle off the road in a high-speed chase after being alerted by the woman's mother and captured the suspects. Now, a worker at the farm who was stripped and tied up by the armed raiders was later arrested after the mobile phone numbers of the 2 men were found in his phone. And the 3 men appeared before Delmas Magistrates Court charged with armed robbery, theft, and murder, and were refused bail and have been remained in custody for trial. Now, there's a police spokesman, and he said that Chantel asked an employee to help her load the lawnmower into a truck. And when she suddenly saw two men inside of her yard, they told the employee to disrobe, and they tied him up, and then they attacked Chantel, who was screaming for help. They strangled her and then went into her home. The victim's mother was assaulted with a firearm, and the house was robbed. Now, there was a high-speed chase that ensued between the suspects and the Neighborhood Watch group, which resulted in the suspects overturning the vehicle and crawling out to escape. But they were caught and handed over to the police, who opened a case of robbery and murder, and a firearm was recovered, and ammunition, and a bloodstained jacket. Now, in a separate murder, farm manager Brendan Horner, who was 21 at the time, was attacked, brutally tortured before being stabbed 3 times, then strangled after being strung up from a pole. The horrific attack happened at the DeRots, and that's DEROTS farm in Paul Row, ROUX, in Free State Province, 180 miles away from the earlier murder. Sorry about that. That was my niece. It happened 180 miles from the earlier murder, and he was said to have gone through a horrific ordeal. Now, the police spokesman said that Mr. Horner failed to arrive home after finishing work and was reported missing, and was found at 6 a.m. the next day, and he had perished, and his blood-soaked body showed horrific signs of torture, stabbings, and a knife was found nearby on his hat and was found strung up on a pole, and he was declared deceased. Now, these 2 men that had been arrested and charged with the murder are now due for court, right? And Gilly Shippers, Scheepers, who owns the farm where Mr. Horner had perished. He worked for me, he said, for a year before he died, but this is sensitive and I am not commenting, he said. Now, in a third incident, Paul De Cruz, his wife, his 4 children, 3 girls and 1 boy, ages 6 to 18, were attacked on their farm in West Honoria. That's Westonaria in Gauteng, Gauteng, on Friday morning. Now, De Cruz told Network 24 that his children and his wife were directly threatened with assault, and he wanted them to undergo trauma counseling as soon as possible. Now, one of his daughters reportedly asked him what it would look like if she were shot in the head. Agricultural strategist Dr. Jaco de Villiers has described the latest murders as part of a war against food production in the country, and said that his murder was slaughter. He told Times Live, "How do you murder someone and hang them on a pole for everyone to see? This was a clear message to all farmers. Farm killings have to stop right now." Now, Dr. Jane Buys, Buys, safety and risk analyst for Free State Agriculture, told the paper, "The senseless killings cannot be allowed with the brutality in which they are executed. This is not clear what the motive for the murder is. There cannot be any justification for killing a person who provides food security. Something has to be done to stop it." Pressure Group Agra SA said that on an average, a farm where a farmer is violently attacked will be abandoned for up to 5 years until someone takes it on and restarts production. They said that means dozens of workers and dependents losing their livelihoods. AfriForum spokesman Marius Mueller, who speaks for the civil rights organization protecting minority groups in South Africa, said that farmers need better police protection. He also said that this is yet another dark day in the history of South Africa for farmers and those with small holdings, and the murder of these 2 farmers was totally unnecessary. These were both premeditated and horrific attacks on innocent farmers who look after and care for their workers, and whose job may now be put in jeopardy by these murders. Each day in South Africa, an average of 60 people are murdered, but although the numbers of farmers killed averages 75 a year, their deaths are usually horrific and brutal. Their killers often torture their victims and assault female members in the house before finally murdering their victims. And if you think that is bad, okay, I mean, that is just, like I said, what nightmares are made out of, right? This is as bad too, I mean, because now what they're doing as well is there are stunning reparations efforts. The South African Parliament voted to seize all of the country's farmland that is owned by white people. For what? Don't they realize that we're all human beings and that there is only one race? The human race. So the Parliament voted 241 to 83 to confiscate all land owned by whites without compensation to ensure an increase in ownership among native inhabitants. The decision comes 2 weeks after the inauguration of South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, who promised to hasten the process of land redistribution during his term. Now, all of this happened a couple of years ago, but it has not stopped. It has not stopped. I didn't know about any of this. And I don't know if any of you even knew about any of this. And with everything that's happening to our farmers today in this country, nothing surprises me anymore. It's like, look at what happened with our orange grove farmers, our citrus farmers, our fruit farmers, who are being forced to, pretty much because it's cheaper, to destroy their crops because consumers and supermarket owners, they don't like the way the fruit looks. It doesn't look pretty enough. Look at what's happening with our farmers, the chicken farmers, the turkey farmers, egg farmers, crop farmers. They're having to destroy everything. What's going to happen if one of those farmers decides to go against what the government wants? Is this what's going to happen to them? This got under my skin. And You know, this is not something that I like to report on, but because this is reality. And a community member wanted me to report on this. My heart breaks for these people. And I can only hope that they find a better life and that they are able to continue farming, maybe somewhere else. I don't know. It's just sad. Okay, I'm out of here. I appreciate you. You stay safe. You stay positive. You keep prepping. And as always, fearless.